Welcome to HBS and DWJ. We will be discussing an exploration of Day 3 of creation, where land and plant life came into being by divine command.
In the beginning, the world was a mix of land and water. Through volcanic convulsions, parts of the earth rose, others sank, forming hollows where water quickly rushed in. Psalm 104:6-9 vividly describes this process, leaving large parts of the earth as dry land, forming oceans, seas, lakes, and rivers. Genesis 1:9-13 narrates the third day of creation, emphasizing God's command for waters to gather and dry land to appear. This gathering of waters resulted in landforms emerging, yet the specifics of how it occurred remain undetailed, emphasizing divine command over process. Initially, waters were divided horizontally, separating the waters above from below, and then land from water on earth. Science tells us that every part of the earth was once covered in water, possibly reflecting ancient judgments on the earth. While much about this time is speculative, the account stresses belief in divine action, giving us enough to trust God's narrative. Verse 9 marks Day 3, where God refines creation by adding detail and order, having already created light and sky in prior days. Genesis follows a structured pattern. God speaks, creates, observes, declares goodness, and numbers the day, a rhythm seen throughout the chapter. Each of the first 3 days prepares for corresponding creations in the second half of the week, with land separating from ocean on Day 3. God's command for waters to gather into one place implies interconnected seas rather than a single ocean as we understand today. In verse 10, waters are named seas, presenting a global body of water with land masses, emphasizing God's power and authority. The phrase, "and it was so," underscores God's effortless creation, commanding and it happening without struggle. We are awed by the power described, as a simple command brings forth dry, habitable land, preparing for life. Verse 10 continues, God called the dry land earth, and the gathering of the waters he called seas, contrasting ancient myths by crediting the true creator. Ancient deities like Yam contrast sharply with this narrative, which sees seas as inanimate under God's command. By naming the dry land earth, God readies it for habitation, countering absurd evolutionary theories about human origins. Naming indicates responsibility and rule, with God naming land and seas, asserting his power over creation. Declaring his creations good reflects God's absolute standard of goodness, with no bad in what he made. Genesis 1:11 introduces plant life, with God commanding the earth to bring forth grass, herbs, and fruit trees. Vegetation appears, preparing earth for human habitation, providing sustenance necessary for survival. Plants grew instantly through divine power, not natural processes, clothing the earth in lush greenery. Day 3 involved creating dry land and plant life, following the pattern of speaking, creating, naming, and blessing. The specific phrasing around seeds and kinds highlights God's intent for plants to reproduce according to their kinds. God's supremacy over creation includes the form and function of all living things, as seen in the command for plants to bear seeds. Genesis 1:12 mirrors the previous verse, describing the earth producing vegetation as God commanded. Plants and trees with seeds of their own kind came into being, capable of reproducing themselves. Reproduction was built into creation from the start, with God creating once, making it good, and ensuring its continuation. Genesis 1 invites debates, but it is clear, God alone made living things with the intent of them reproducing from the beginning. Verse 13 concludes Day 3, with God seeing that it was good, following the pattern of numbering each creation day. The phrase evening and morning reflects the Israelites' day counting from sunset to sunset. This completes the first half of the creation week, with each day producing conditions for the next. Light, sky, seas, and land were prepared for the sun, moon, birds, sea creatures, and land creatures in the second half. Genesis 1 emphasizes God's sole responsibility for creation, with created things having no power of their own. We may not understand the entire process, but the Bible is clear on who is responsible and authoritative over creation. We hope this gives you a better understanding of Day 3, dry land and plant life.
Thank you for joining us on this journey through Genesis, and blessings, my